Impact Heads Radio.
We back in the cut, and we serious like a leg period. You know to come up. I'm on the come up.
Yeah.
You know to come up.
I'm joined by Max Caster here today, folks. Max Caster, two-time Creative Pro champion. He's tearing things up here on the Northeast scene. Max, how you doing today, man? Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing real well.
What's crazy, man, when I asked you to come on the show, I've been talking to you for a little bit. I had no idea you were going to be working a show for Impact. And I run a podcast that's dedicated to Impact Wrestling and Impact fans, but I also do this Come Up series where we talk to up-and-comers. So it worked out in my favor. You're actually going to be working a show coming up here August 5th at the Sports Arena in Long Island. Man, what's going through your head? How does it feel? You're actually stepping in the six-sided ring for the first time.
Yeah, it's really funny. We had known about this for a while, but I had no idea they were going to put a graphic out with our names on it, and seeing that, someone just sent it to me. It's not like they were like, hey, it's coming out. It just came out. Someone sent it to me. I was like, oh man, this is great. I could use this. Start sending it to people. Start sending it to promoters. Hey, look at me. So yeah, it's really cool. I'm looking forward to going in the six sides, seeing how those ropes feel, seeing how the bumps feel. I know it's different, but it's someplace I always wanted to be. So it's I'm super excited right now.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, you're humble, you're a professional. This is just another day at the office, but I know that inner young, TNA wrestling fanboy inside is just like, yes. Is that an accurate? Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, watching TNA for so many years, there's like so many guys that you want to wrestle and so many guys that you emulate, and like six-sided ring, I feel like that's something special. It's something different about it. It's something real different. So yeah, I am just like kind of fangirling right now about this match.
Growing up watching wrestling, before you made the change to, you jumped to the other side of the guardrail, when you were just a fan, were you a TNA kid growing up, fan of Impact and all that?
A little bit. Yeah, probably when I was about 14 or so, I would come home after school and I would watch TNA on Fox Sports.
Fox Sports era.
Yeah, on Fridays. So I would come home, I would watch that, X Division guys, AJ, Chris Sabin, Jeff Jarrett was running wild back then. But then I kind of fell out of it once they moved to Spike. I became more of a SmackDown guy, and I was watching a lot of John Cena's rapping, which still, one of the greatest characters of all time. Some of the greatest promos of all time, I think, is John Cena rapping. I watched one yesterday where that last word, he just leaves it up to the fans and they all curse. All the fans curse at the same time, and it's like that's a great power to have over the crowd. So I think it's stuff like that, stuff like early TNA, and it's like that's where you want to be, and you never forget that. Like the stuff that you watch as a kid, listen to as a kid, like that's what sticks with you. So I think we're starting to get a crop of guys on the indies and coming up who watched a lot of old X Division stuff and watched a lot of old John Cena and old Eddie Guerrero on SmackDown, and like people come up, and that's kind of where the evolution is right now, is just taking that stuff to the next level. But yeah, I was an Impact guy growing up. Past that, I got back into it maybe like 2011, 2012, the end of their Spike time, over to like Destination America and to Pop. And so I was super big into that. For a while, Impact was the only TV show I watched, period. Like, I really don't watch a lot of TV, and that was the only show that I would watch every single week. I'd make sure it was recorded, or I had a way to watch it, and yeah, that kept me going for a while.
Yeah, it's cool to hear. I definitely had a similar upbringing on wrestling. I found out about the show through Fox Sports Net. Coming home from school one day, I saw like Jeff Hardy and Raven on TV. I was like, oh shit,
yeah.
What is this? From then on, to the races I went, and I haven't watched WWE in a couple of years. Impact is mostly what I watch, besides the independent shows around here that I go to. And those years, man, of like Paul Heyman writing the show like that, I have some great, bright early childhood memories of that era specifically. I remember in school, my friend was wearing a John Cena shirt, and I bit into an apple and spit in his face on the playground. Classic stuff, right?
Yeah.
There.
So similar story. Like, you always want to try moves when you're growing up, but no one was a wrestling fan that I talked to in school. So we were just after school one day, and this guy had his back turned to me, and I said, I'm gonna give this guy a neck breaker. And I grab his neck, I go down, and he doesn't know how to protect himself, so he puts his arm down. He nearly breaks his arm taking this neck breaker from me. I got teachers yelling at me. He's rolling around on the floor. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to just lay on your back. He didn't know. He wasn't ready.
Me and my friends actually went the full distance. Like, we started the backyard promotion, did the whole thing, built what was supposed to be a ring. We were putting videos up on YouTube, the whole nine. And the only thing that ever came from it was, are you familiar with Cracked.com, the comedy website?
I know the name, yeah.
Yeah, Crack.com, they're a pretty big website. They took one of our videos and they put it up as an upload of the day and just beat on us and did a whole bit about our video. And the comments, there's just like hundreds of people cracking jokes. It's hilarious, but that's all that ever came from it. Our young stupid backyard stupidity, which I don't think any kid should be doing. Horrible idea.
Real bad idea.
Terrible.
Real bad.
Terrible.
I never got into the backyard stuff, really. Like, maybe here and there with my brother, but no federations, no rings built. I watch. There's you ever hear of New Legacy? They're a video game channel on YouTube. They play wrestling games.
It sounds pretty familiar. That name definitely rings a bell.
Yeah, but they would post up like backyard, like kids wrestling on trampolines and like weird stuff, kids wrestling in parks, and they would just commentate over that. That's really my exposure to backyard wrestling. So I wasn't, the watching the Mick Foley jumping off the roof tapes. I'm watching like kids give each other half-ass moves on grass with these guys just making fun of them.
Well, my best friend Danny, the craziest story that we still joke about when we hang out to this day is he gave me a leg drop off a ladder, and he put his hands down when he landed, and it was just a bunch of mattresses, nothing hard, but he landed hand first off the ladder, and he totally broke his arm. Like, we still have the footage where, like, oh, shit, we stopped the video, and he didn't want his mom to stop the backyard wrestling. He didn't want that to happen, so this kid, he went to dinner, with his family throughout the night with a broken arm. He was around the house with a broken arm, didn't say anything about it, and then in first period that next morning, he went to the nurse and said he tripped and fell in the hallway and that he broke his arm. And I think to this day, his mom does not. Actually, no, she found out years later and totally flipped out about it. Total dedication, man. That is dedication to the craft.
That's a real worker right there.
Talking about, you coming up, your childhood and everything, watching wrestling. When did you decide this is what I got to do? I got to go get trained. This is what I want.
It's something that you always think about, but it wasn't until I actually went to a show and I was talking to one of the wrestlers online. He's like, hey, we got our first match. Come to the show. And I was like, okay, great. And it was one of Pat Buck's old shows and in New Jersey. And I went there. I talked to the guy afterwards. I'm like, oh, this is actually possible. And I would always tell him, yeah, I want to train. I want to come train. It's in New Jersey. I don't know. It's a long drive. And eventually, Kurt Hawkins opens up his school on Long Island, which is a 20-minute drive, no tolls, no, nothing crazy. And I get the message is like, no excuses now. So I had the time, I had the money. I was like, okay, great. We'll see how this goes. I'm a former high school athlete. I'm a generally athletic guy. No matter what, like I was just, I guess, born that way. But, I took that opportunity. I said, it's time to do it, and just stuck with it. And I really, having a background in radio, that's what I went to school for. That's what I do now. I wanted to be an announcer. So I was like, I don't know any other way to get into wrestling. So maybe I'll try this. I'll be an announcer. And I just stuck with it, and I'm still doing it.
Was the game, what you thought it was going to be, like your expectations, or was it like, holy shit, that hurts. That is way more painful than I thought it was going to be?
No, we actually have a pretty good ring at Creative Pro. You go out there, you wrestle on some real stiff, hard rings, loose ropes, no padding, metal sticking out. Even doing like tryouts for WWE, their ring is super stiff too. I don't know how guys travel and work on that every night. But our ring is actually pretty nice, so we kind of got eased into it a little bit easier than other people. This was no Stu Hart dungeon situation. But I kind of got what I expected. I guess the most painful part of wrestling for me is not the bumps, but it's more of like the politic angle, the schmoozing with people angle. That's what's really painful for me, just because in my life, I'm more of a loner. If I don't know you, I'm not necessarily going to be your best friend. So it takes a while for me to warm up to people, and I think people take that the wrong way. So that's what's been like the biggest hurdle in my wrestling career. Doing the moves and stuff, taking bumps, getting hurt. You could work through that, but it's like being an extremely personable guy from the exact moment you meet someone. That's really the toughest part.
That's really interesting. So like the inner workings, the backstage, the politics, that's what surprised you the most, the stuff coming into the game. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's one of those situations, like it's who you know, not what you know. It's not even like where you go most of the time. It's just who you know, who has your back, who can you warm up to. And honestly, in my real life, in wrestling life, even like with family stuff, I'm not necessarily gonna sit around and chat with people for hours and get their numbers and start texting them. It's like, if we're friends and we'll get there. But if I just meet you, it's like, hey, I just met you. And I also think I was talking to someone. I was talking to VSK. I don't know, he's Massage Envy. He's part of that tag team, one of the guys at Creative Pro. I was talking to him a while ago, maybe a few years ago, and we were talking about me, and he said, it's kind of weird that, because I started when I was 24, so I was already an adult. He says, you started when you were a fully formed person, so you're not going to run around worrying if everybody likes you. You're not going to worry about, are you pissing people off? You're just going to be yourself. So I believe that that's the case. I'm an adult. I've been an adult my entire wrestling career, and that's really what it is. We all have other stuff going on, but I don't really base a lot of my my happiness on whether people like me. It's just, hey, I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna wrestle well, and we'll take it from there. But I feel like, especially recently, I've learned that a lot of it is more of, do people like you as a person rather than as a wrestler? That's what's more important.
Well, I mean, apparently you're rubbing shoulders with the right people if you just got booked at an Impact show. Apparently you do have some of the right friends, the ones you are keeping.
Sure, yeah, and yes. I don't want to minimize that, and that's I believe all thanks to Pat Buck and Kurt Hawkins. They work that out. They know I work hard. I help them out. I train people at the school, and they said, here's a reward, and I take that and I'm going to make the most of it. So that's really, when you're in a situation like I am, where I'm having trouble navigating that kind of politic angle of wrestling, when you get something like this thrown at you, you're super thankful and you're super ready to go make the right impression. So that's what I plan on doing. That's what I'm super excited for, is just getting out there, impressing people, shaking hands with people, and making those connections.
I mean, you're certainly learning from the best, though. What's it like, just having somebody as big as Kurt Hawkins as your mentor and your trainer? What's your experiences like with him?
He's great. I can tell that as a person who's been wrestling for 3.5 years, that he and Pat Buck and Alex Reynolds training me from the start, they have all expedited my growth, more than a lot of wrestlers from other places. So if I was at another place, I feel like I could be 3.5 years in and maybe I'm just starting to get out there and maybe I'm just getting ready to have a match. But we were getting ready like a year in and we were looking good, and going past that 3.5 years now, I feel like I can have a match with just about anybody. So that having all those guys as mentors, and now seeing Hawkins back on the road with WWE and watching what he does on TV, and him coming back and us asking him, hey, how'd this go? What happened there? And you can kind of get some different insight on that. He brings stuff back. Like he was on the Europe tour, and then he comes back to the school and he brings one of the things they were doing, and it's like, hey, try this. You get the crowd and they love it, and so he's bringing a wealth of knowledge, like right from the cream of the crop. He's bringing that right back to us, and that's something that I think only a couple other people have. I know like Seth Rollins has a school, Gallows and Joey Mercury have a school, and I want to say that's it. Brian Kendrick, I know, is training people, but as in terms of guys in the WWE, there's not many who are passing that along as they go, and it's something that not a lot of people have. So it's we're all very lucky, but I think we're all very, as students of Hawkins and Pat and Alex, we're all very smart to have seen this opportunity when it came up and said, no matter what the cost is, no matter what the travel is, this is the place we have to be, just because of the names attached to it. So, having Hawkins is great. Having all those guys is great. It's really the best environment, and I couldn't ask for anything better.
So, I mean, as a student of the game, you're sharing the locker rooms with guys like Mario Baccara, Fallah Bah. I saw you got to wrestle Robbie E. Run me through your experiences. Like, are these guys key to helping and crafting you? Like, what have you learned from these guys, could you say? Yeah,
so earlier on in my wrestling career, I won the Creative Pro Championship, and then following that, you have to put together matches. And Hawkins and Pat Buck, they did a really good job of picking opponents for me that I would learn from. So I think the first one was Fallah. We had Robbie E. We had Bokara come out there, and yeah, you learn something different from all those guys. Like Robbie was on TV for years, and he comes to our little venue, and he's wrestling me, and it's that style, it's that TV style. Fallah, he's a big guy, so you have to wrestle that style. Bokara is such a technician, you have to wrestle his style. So it's something different every time, and you take something away from each match. So yeah, it was really, really important with helping me grow as a wrestler early on.
You're still a student of the game. You're still in the earlier stages of your career, on the come up, pun intended. But you've made so much progress thus far. Like we said at the beginning of the show, you're going to be working a match for Impact Wrestling. It's going to be Bryce Donovan and Pat Buck versus you and Johnny Clash August 4th at the Sports Arena. That's just such a big moment for you. Going out there, are you going to make the most of it and make sure that all the fans in attendance remember the Tweener? And that's another thing I want to ask you, man. I want to ask you, who is the Tweener? That's something I want to know. Who is the character, the Tweener?
Yeah, I'll answer that one first. The Tweener is basically me. If you know me, you know the Tweener. I'm a troll. I am a contrarian, and I am all about making people feel uncomfortable and questioning what they know. So I do that to my opponents. I do that to the fans. Make sure that they're a little bit off balance, but they always come back because they always love the Tweener, baby.
So what are your ultimate goals for your career? Like I said, you're still in the earlier stages, but in your head, what are your goals? What are things that you're looking to accomplish?
I think everybody's answer is the same. They want to have that WrestleMania moment. Right now, I'm kind of looking at different stuff below that level. CZW is something that's coming up that I keep hearing. Hey, we got to use you. That you got to find a spot. So I'm excited to find that spot, and I'm continuing to work on that.
Well, you're a regular on the Dojo Wars shows, right?
Yeah, that's true. And
plug that a little bit. Tell us about the Dojo Wars.
Sure, and that's where I developed the Tweener. And they do provide that for wrestlers, is a small crowd, a responsive crowd most of the time, and a place that will watch you grow every single week. So it helps you kind of establish your character week after week instead of, running shows every single month and now you're having to wait and, will these people see my promos online? Will they see my tweets? I don't know. So every single week they run these shows, and if you're there, those fans just watch you grow. And they do that every Wednesday. That's in Blackwood, New Jersey at the CZW Dojo. You can check that out. You can find them online real easy. They have a YouTube channel. All the shows go up there. I have tons of matches in those shows. One of my favorite matches, by the way, was with MJF on one of those shows. Right when I became the Tweener, we had a barn burner of a match, and that's like a Dojo Wars classic. If they had to make a DVD, I think that would be on it. But yeah, that's a direct feeder into CZW, and guys move up from there all the time. If you put in the work, they'll notice that and they'll find something for you to do. And I think that time's starting to come up for me. So the only thing is putting in more work, getting better. And when that moment finally does come, is making the most of it and knocking it out of the park. So I have that to look forward to. I'm really getting into Japan right now, like just watching it and seeing that whole culture, watching those matches, listening to the fans, how they react. I'd like to experience that in some sort of way. Obviously, New Japan's getting bigger over here. My favorite wrestler right now is Tetsuya Naito. Just the way that he works. I don't know how familiar you are with him, but like just watching the way that he can manipulate the Japanese crowd, that's something that I'd like to experience and attempt and get better at and master, to get to that level and try and bring that back to what we're doing here in the States. So those two things are my two immediate goals, is building the character and just getting to Japan. Even anywhere overseas I'd love to try, but Japan's like the one thing that's capturing my attention right now.
So really, you're just looking to work your way up the ladder and get to the top and pass through places like CZW and all of the top independents. And the Japan dream, man, that's something you always hear from wrestlers. The dreams of Japan. You want that Riviera Steakhouse jacket.
Yeah.
That's got to be a goal.
Yeah, but it's not just working through those places and passing through. It's going there and making a difference and being known as one of their guys, one of those guys. So it's a launching pad, but it's also a place that you can call home. And that's what's most important, is having those places attached to your name, so that when people say my name, they say, okay, this company, this company, this company. Okay, we know where to find him. We know what he's affiliated with. You can do that with, a lot of people who have already gone to the big stage. You can look back and, you have Ring of Honor guys, you have CZW guys, you have Japan guys, New Japan guys. So you have all these affiliations. Like AJ Styles is the king of that. Like, he's been everywhere. So you say his name, obviously you know where he is now, but you know where he's been. And that's what's important. You know that lineage, you know that he's accomplished, and you know where to find his stuff. So that's really the goal, is to go places and make a difference, and use that obviously to help me, but also in return help those places by, trying to elevate, trying to give them something different. So that's the real goal. It's not necessarily just jumping on every company and launching myself even further. Obviously you want to do that, but it's just making that difference there.
So you're killing it in the Dojo War shows. If CZW comes calling, hey Tweener, we want you to be our guy, but first we want to see what you can do in the Tournament of Death. Are you down for that? Is that a goal?
No, it's not something that I've ever thought of. No, I
give props to those guys, man. Those are warriors right there. That shit's insane.
When I first started doing Dojo Wars, you're kind of thrown into that locker room and you see a lot of different people, and some of the guys do death matches, and you see the scars, you see the cuts, and oh, where's that from? Oh, I just stabbed myself with a huge jagged piece of glass. I was like, what? So I'm listening to this stuff, and obviously, you think it's crazy, you think it's psychopathic, but yeah, respect is like the only word I can give to those guys. Just and especially the guys who will go out and wrestle normal matches, non-death matches as well. Like, those guys can work. Those guys can wrestle. So yeah, I do give props. It's a huge eye opener when I met those guys, and no, it's not something I ever thought of, but I know, like, from this past Tournament of Death, one of the guys who does Dojo Wars every week, and he's starting to move on to the main roster now, is Kit Osborne, and they needed a guy, like, very last minute to just run in the ring at Tournament of Death, and he says, well, I'm ready, and he runs out there, and he gets beat up and thrown through a bunch of stuff, and people see that, people notice that, and he put his body on the line for CZW, and he's getting the benefits of that now. So yeah, there are opportunities that come up, and maybe if it's the right opportunity, sure, you do it, but not something I ever wanted to do. I do remember one like TNA match. It was on pay-per-view. They had a bag of glass, just crushed glass, and I think EC3 hit it with his chest. And I looked at that, I was like, man, that's insane. But then, like, watching Tournament of Death and these deathmatch guys cut each other and throw each other off of stuff, that's a whole other level. And I'd have to really, like, build up my courage to do that.
So it's like, we're talking about deathmatch wrestling here. That's what's so cool about wrestling, is like there's just so many different genres of pro wrestling. But what you're doing in your own career, like, do you think you focus more on like the in-ring aspect, like what you want to do, or are you more of like a character-driven guy, or just a total blend of everything?
in wrestling, to be successful, you have to be a character first of all, because you can be a horrible wrestler in the ring, but if you have a character that people buy into and want to see, then you can make money and you can get somewhere. Me, I like to focus on the character. Unfortunately, I picked a character that is a little bit insider and a little bit hard to understand at first, but if people see me enough, it'll get over and they like it. I do focus a lot on the in-ring stuff as well. So it is a combination of both, but I would say the most important thing in wrestling is being that character, just so people have that connection with you.
Well, what's cool about the generation today is you're a freelance independent guy. You're talking about how your character, certain aspects of it, are more of an inside thing. But I mean, now people have YouTube today. Like, you can literally produce your own promos and your own vignettes and post them on your social media, and that's something I see growing more and more. Is that something you see yourself involved in?
Yeah, content is king. That's really the name of the game right now, is can you have that presence online? For example, and this is non-wrestling related, but there's a protein bar company called RX Bar, and their Instagram graphics are so cool that they've built themselves up to have hundreds of thousands of followers. And you go on their Twitter, and it's totally different. They have like 3,000. So they market themselves really well on Instagram, not so well on Twitter, but you kind of see like what people want. They don't really want text. They want something to look at. They want something to enjoy, stimulate them visually. So that is the name of the game. Something that'll make them laugh. That's what a lot of wrestling is. People like to be a little silly, little goofy, tongue-in-cheek. So yeah, content is king in wrestling. I admittedly don't do a good job of promoting myself. You'll see that anytime I write, hey, there's a show coming up, or I'm doing this show, I'm on this podcast, I'll kind of write it half-heartedly, because I really don't like the self-promotion aspect of wrestling. I don't know. I find it a little bit awkward when I do it. So I just kind of do what I feel, which is always, hey guys, I'm doing this, go look at it. Instead of writing, hey, this is a huge opportunity for me. I love, these people. I love these people. You need to see this. This is the greatest interview of all time. No, I just kind of say what I feel. It's like, hey, look at this. And that's really all it is. So yeah, I do have to do a better job of that. And videos, pictures, memes, stuff like that. That always sells. But I think nothing's better than being yourself. So, I'm doing me. We'll see how that goes.
So not just as a wrestler, but as a fan, or a fan first, do you think that the business should go in more of a sports entertainment direction, or a professional wrestling, strictly pure wrestling direction? Or do you think that there's room for both?
There's room for everything. That's the great part about wrestling, is that it is not exactly defined by one thing. You have different wrestlers who do different things in all aspects, different things in the ring, different ways that they speak. I always see a guy like Kenny Omega having to defend himself and the things that he does, but the vast majority of fans and wrestlers can all acknowledge that he is the best wrestler on the planet right now. So people are going to hate stuff. People are going to like stuff. Everything's going to be divisive. There's really no universally loved thing. There's always going to be somebody who hates something. So that's that. Wrestling is the perfect sport to have something for everybody. You see that on a WWE show. You have 3 hours, but it's 3 hours of all different stuff. Different characters, different, people interacting and in different ways. And you have to appeal to everybody in some ways, but not personally, just, on a grand scheme. So people are going to gravitate to who they like. They're going to hate who they hate. And, but you have to provide everything. If we all went out there and didn't smile and didn't look at the crowd and just wrestled and didn't make a noise the whole time, people are going to hate that. Some people are going to love that, but a lot of people are going to hate that. So you have to give them, hey, maybe there's one guy who does that and he caters to those fans. Maybe you have a guy that does the opposite, who just makes a lot of noise, and when he gets in the ring, he doesn't want to wrestle. Some people are going to love that. So those are two opposite things that will work in wrestling. You just have to, find your fan base. So yeah, everything works in wrestling. There's not one way to do it.
It's crazy because like your generation, you come from that generation that really grew up on like the Attitude Era and stuff like that. Like so like the second wave of like American variety show style wrestling filled with the promos and the vignettes. It really started with the 80s and what the stuff McMahon was doing in the mid 80s and then on. But you always see like the older guys that grew up even before that with the NWA and like they're just pure sport wrestling. But now our generation, we grew up on the American variety show style, and like I can appreciate everything. I'm just a fan of anything. If wrestling's on, I'm gonna watch it. But you totally see the split. There's fans that they want to see the pure sport. They want the stories to be told in the ring. But when you get that variety show style, a lot of the stories are told through, like we were saying, vignettes and promos and stuff. But like your career, do you lean in a certain direction, or are you just down for whatever?
That's a good question. I would love to be able to go in a ring and just do my thing, be my character, and wrestle a badass match every single time. But yeah, there is a need for all the other stuff. So I guess what I would prefer is let's keep it athletic related, let's keep it wrestling related, because I know that I am just as good or a better athlete than the majority of people. So that's what I have over everybody. But it is a total package business, and you got to provide everything. But yeah, I would say if I really had to pick, it would be the wrestling, because you can do a lot of stuff there, and I feel like that's what I can control. That's what I can go in there and actually do. It's like all the other stuff. It's like, well, is this funny? Does this make sense? I don't know. I overthink things a lot. So yeah, I'd say the wrestling is where it's at for me.
Wow. So really, really great stuff here with Max Caster. Max, before we get out of here, we're running out of time. Before we get out of here, I'm going to ask you the one big question. Who is your biggest inspiration in your career? Like, who did you look up to growing up, and who, like, to this day is just your biggest inspiration of all time in all of wrestling?
Yeah, I'd say Nigel McGuinness. He's the most incredible wrestler to me for some reason. And I can actually pinpoint it. I went to a Ring of Honor show, and it was the first time I was ever exposed to Ring of Honor. And you watch the matches. This was probably about 2007, 2008.
Are you talking about Sports Plus on Long Island?
No, I'm talking about Hammerstein.
Oh, even better, Hammerstein.
Yeah. Oh, we were on the balcony, like first row on the balcony, like all these athletes wrestling. Show Eddie Edwards was on the show. Tons of guys that you would recognize now, and you had all these matches, guys flying around. Then Nigel McGuinness comes out, and he's got the championship, and I'm like, okay, we'll see what this guy does. And it was just different than everything else. He didn't have to fly around. I've seen matches where he does do that, but he didn't have to fly around. He didn't have to, go super fast. He just hit really hard, and he wrestled Claudio that night. And the one thing that just blew my mind with his wrestling was he kept going for the same move he kept going for that lariat because he knew eventually it was going to work. And you don't see wrestlers do that often. They go to a move once, and if it works, it works. Maybe they'll go to it another time and it doesn't work. But Nigel, if it worked, if he hit it, if he missed it, he just kept going back to it. And that's that kind of mentality of wanting to knock the other guy out. That blew my mind. And so he really is like a huge inspiration for, the beauty behind pro wrestling is that it is all different and something's going to appeal to everyone. It's just like I was saying before. You had 7 matches on that show where they were doing the same thing, but his one match that was different appealed to me. Maybe there were people in there that hated that match. I remember there was a famous promo that he did where he was hurt. He had the title and he got hurt in his match with Austin Aries. When he busted his eye open and he had a concussion. And he cuts this promo about how he's hurt and he can't wrestle that night, and he wants to wrestle but he can't. And fans are starting to boo him. They're saying you suck. You're a wimp. You can't wrestle. You should drop the title right now. Vacate it right now. And he goes on and he cuts a passionate promo about how he deserves to be the champion and he's earned it. And he got people back on his side. There's something for everybody out there. Like that was for me at that moment, being a guy who watched a lot of WWE, who got the gist of the ROH style 6-7 matches into that card, and then he comes out and just changes the whole game. That is the guy. That's the guy. And I had said for a long time, ever since I started wrestling, if I could wrestle that guy, that's like the career match for me. Never happened. Might never happen. I don't know. I don't think he would ever.
Man, when you talk about him now, what happened to him? If we fill in the listeners, he contracted Hep C, right? Is that correct?
One of those, and one of hepatitis something. But from what I know, he's better now. And for whatever reason, he after his run in TNA, he just didn't want to wrestle again. And he's in a great spot now as an announcer for WWE, and I'm sure he's helping guys train. I would hope that he's helping guys train. That's where I would want to be. Is if I could learn from anybody right now, because I'm looking around and I'm seeing, okay, what else can I learn? I'm at that point where I'm kind of plateaued in what I've learned in wrestling, and I want to go learn from somebody else. And ideally, it would be going down and working with that guy and just having him school the hell out of me. I would love that. Is like my dream scenario, is to work with that guy. There, like a couple years ago, he was gonna put out a TV show, and he said, if this gets funded, I will wrestle again. And I was like, take my money, please wrestle again, please, because all I want to do is have that opportunity. I want that opportunity to wrestle that guy. Like I said, I don't know if it'll happen. I think he's past that point in his life. But if he ever came back and he was like, hey, I'm taking a match, I am banging down that guy's door. I am sending him tweets, Facebook messages, anything I can just to get his attention and be like, dude, you need to wrestle me. I need this for my life. And I want you to help. So yeah, that's the guy. That's Nigel's the guy.
You just schooled me right there. I didn't even know that he was doing the announcing by choice. I thought he was the announcer in Ring of Honor, and also he's doing the WWE United Kingdom tournament series. I didn't know that was by choice. I thought he was just still injured or sick and not able to wrestle.
No, he. I at first I don't know if it was by choice, right? They put him on Ring of Honor, and he was making the matches, and he started doing some of the commentary. Yeah, and he grew in that role, and he started to excel. And the more he announced, it's like, okay, well, this guy, he's back, and you could tell every time he had to step in the ring, there was like a scene in the ring with Kevin Steen, and Nigel gets in the ring and people are just going crazy for him to wrestle, but he would not do it. He just would not do it. And all I want to see is that guy wrestle one more match, because he means a lot to me. I don't know if he knows how much he means to a lot of people. You know, I have his DVDs. I gave them to MJF, and MJF went on and does a lot of the things that he does off of those DVDs. And it's like just passing that along and being like, dude, take it, run with it, and make it your own. And he did it. He's doing it. And just like, if I could give everyone the gift of Nigel McGuinness, I know it sounds weird, but if I could give everyone that gift, even if it's not him, but if somebody could just blow their mind with wrestling. A lot of people, it's Shawn Michaels, a lot of people, it's Eddie Guerrero or Stone Cold, but man, Nigel McGuinness, like, if you can be that passionate about a wrestler as I just got right now about Nigel McGuinness, like, I want you to feel that. He is the best wrestler of all time in my book. And I bet in a lot of people's books, and he probably doesn't even know it. And he is the best.
You heard it, folks. Nigel McGuinness is Max Caster's biggest inspiration. We've
best wrestler of all time.
Of all time, yeah. You can't forget, man. That he was just crushing the game. Those blonde spikes. That was the man right there. I remember I was such a young kid. I saw him wrestle at Sports Plus. You remember Sports Plus laser tag? Are you familiar with that spot?
I don't even know what town that is.
Yeah, I think it was in Islandia, I believe, a random town on Long Island. But
okay,
they would run these Ring of Honor shows, and there wouldn't be that many people in there. But the guys I saw on the card back then, they all went on to such crazy things. If you go back to that roster Ring of Honor had, I'd say like 06 to like, maybe like 2010, like, it was just jam-packed, probably one of the best rosters of all time. And Nigel McGuinness, man, he just totally took the world by storm. So I can appreciate that that's your biggest inspiration. And if he does ever come back, I could only hope that he's going to wrestle the Tweener.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I first of all, to say that he was at the top of that roster, one of the greatest rosters of all time. In ROH,
freaking Sweeney. Come on.
Yeah,
all around,
yeah,
not just wrestlers, just talent all around.
That was such. And I bet if they had TV back then, maybe it would work. I don't know if those guys, would have translated, but yeah, the talent on that roster, and for him to be at the top of that says something. And two, I'm glad you brought up the blonde spikes, because I'm thinking about doing it. I'm thinking about bringing it back. I have long hair. It's just in my face all the time. I'm going to gel it. I'm going to bleach it. And it's going to be blonde spikes.
Do it. I just hope that it translates as more of a Nigel McGuinness type of thing and not a Guy Fieri type of thing. I hope that it, but Max,
I have a good barber. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Plug your barber. Shout him out.
Oh yeah, Joseph at Capelli in Rockville Center. Hey. Check it out.
Hey, shout out to him. Max, thank you so much for coming on. I've picked your brain. We've gotten to know about your fandom. Growing up, we're talking about your career on the other side of the guardrail. You're a professional now. Such a pleasure talking to you, man. Hopefully I can get you on here again, talk to you some more, dig in deeper. But before you go, man, can you just plug your social media where fans can find you on Twitter and whatnot, whatever you want to throw out there? I know you said you're a bit of a loner, but the fans are gonna love you, man.
Yeah, all the fans love the Tweener. They respect the Tweener. That's important to remember. I'm Max Caster on Twitter. I'm Caster Show on Instagram. I'm Max Caster on Facebook. It's Caster. I have tons of people misspelling my name all the time, and I'm happy they got it correct on this Impact Wrestling Global Force graphic that they put out. Check me out. I'm gonna be wrestling at their live event coming up
Friday, August 4th,
first
at the
week
Sports
of
Arena.
August.
St. James.
That's true. Sports Arena, St. James, New York. Really excited to have that opportunity. We're going to be turning some heads there. We're going to be impressing a lot of people. So come out, watch the show, watch the Tweener, see what we do.
Get your tickets on ImpactWrestling.com. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there live in the house. So I hope you get the W, man. I hope you come out on top of that battle. Once again, congratulations that, you're on that show. Because, you know what? I know you got to be humble, but you got to think. The percentages there's so many independent wrestlers out there. Like, this might seem like, a little opportunity to you, but dude, this is huge. Like, think of the percentages of guys that never ever get to do something like this. So hopefully you can make waves, and hopefully Impact, they give you a couple more phone calls.
That's the plan. Yeah.